You know the only thing harder than getting a fat kid out of Dairy Queen? Finding the perfect custom Venom statue. I speak from personal experience because I have looked exhaustively. Check out my journey. So now I've come to two conclusions. One, maybe this $3,000 Venom statue is the right one. And two, you can't really blame a fat kid. Blizzards are freaking delicious. Hey, my name is Mr. X. Welcome to the Extreme Channel. We are giving away $1,000 statues to you guys. If you want to know how to win one, stay tuned for later in the video. Hey everybody, if you're new to the channel, I love custom Venom statues. I love Venom, I love custom statues, let's put them together. So as you saw in the intro, I've owned tons of custom Venom statues and quite a few licensed. Now when I say custom, I mean it's a private unlicensed commission. Somebody came up with the concept and they decided to go with it. Now I believe this particular custom is actually based off of a comic cover that I actually own. I have it hanging on the wall. I'll show you a picture of that in a little bit. But this is a very special statue for a number of reasons. Number one is they only made 20 of them. We'll talk more about that later. Number two, it's professionally painted, which typically you get factory paint. I'll dive into that a little bit as well during the review today. So I've been searching for the perfect Just Eddie Brock statue, just Venom. I have tons of other Venomized characters or things with symbiotes. You know, this is a big part lately of the Marvel world. They have things like King in Black and Absolute Carnage, where the symbiote has this really elaborate story. Venom has a daddy. In fact, of all those custom Venom statues you saw, I only have 3 of those over there. And this is probably, maybe, going to replace one. Because I'm trying to narrow down my collection. I used to own I've probably owned 1,000 statues in my life, as stupid as that sounds. It is pretty stupid, honestly. But I've been narrowing it down to try and get my collection to about 50 or so ever since I announced I was retiring 2 years ago. And part of that is getting some of the coolest of each character. So I didn't want to pass this one up. It was commissioned by one of the best painters in the industry. And here it is. So excited to have it. There were some delays, but it is pretty cool. I'm going to let you know that right now. Kind of a spoiler for the review to come. So let's just dive in. And as you can see, what I love about this so much is they did things they haven't done before, specifically with the concept. Now, here's the slab that I believe it's based off of. Now, what's interesting is there was another custom Venom that was directly based off that, and I think they took their own liberties. Now, I could be wrong because the water tank and some of the other stuff are different, but in my mind, that's where it's from. I have it hanging on the wall. In theory, if I keep this statue, which we'll talk about, it'll hang right behind it. So let's look at the bottom. You know, all the time with Venom statues, I've said this on so many reviews, they're either on top of a building, usually like a gargoyle, or in a sewer. This one does have him on top of a building, but it's truly on top of a building. You see the tops of maybe an apartment building or an office building. I like to think an apartment building. And then you even see the fire escape and then a giant water tower. Or maybe it's an underscaled water tower at that. Now, one of the custom Venoms you saw did have a water tower as well, but that was really underscaled. Nonetheless, it could be a conceptual piece where he's jumping off of it because the water tower is in the back. The buildings are in the back. Clearly, the windows are smaller than Venom, but he is hanging off the side. Now, you want to talk about dynamic, elaborate statues. This is it. It really shows one of his main abilities, as well as the gargantuan size of Venom. The other thing I always talk about, whether it's in a rooftop or a sewer, is the Venom humanoid or creature-esque? This one, I think, lends a little bit more to creature-esque. You know, it depends on who is drawing Venom. Whether it was like Bagley or McFarlane, sometimes more humanoid, sometimes really monstrous. And they have that, and he's leaning off the side here. Very nasty face, drooling, scary, completely cool. So I like that it's very different. I like that it's elaborate. You know, some of the design stuff we're going to talk about. So I think the concept's a 4 out of 5 for sure. Definitely something different and something you would never see a license company do. Now, the reason you wouldn't see a license company do it is because generally they make a huge edition size. So anywhere from, 200 all the way up to 10,000 of the statues, where they only made 20 of these. And the reason they only made 20, this is a very intricate and tricky design, as you can see. So we're going to dive into that, but first let's look at the unboxing and assembly. 2 huge boxes, well, one was big, and the dreaded customs repack. For the first time in my life, Customs actually did a good job repacking it, or maybe they didn't even look at it. But everything was good to go. 2 boxes. There's not a lot of pieces, which kind of surprised me, which made the assembly easier, as you're going to see in a second. But 2 boxes, traditional black foam and straps. I did have one small breakage. This saliva from his mouth was actually broken off. Oh well. So I was pretty proud of myself that I figured most of it out. There were a few issues. Number one is the ladder doesn't sit in flush. It's more of like a PVC material, so I could probably take a heat gun to it or a hair dryer and get it to insert fully. So I'm not super worried about that. I was really shocked how everything did fit together really well, especially with temperature fluctuations. I mean, that's probably why the ladder's not fitting. It's 20 degrees here today. Now this is quarter scale, meaning a real-life Venom would be 4 times larger. So it's 18 inches wide if that's the front. The deepest part of the base is about 11. The water tower sticks out a little bit more in the back. So it's kind of flush in the back, which I like. Why waste time? Because most displays, you're never going to see that, although sometimes it is cool to have Easter eggs that you can never see. The tallest part is probably 26.5 inches, say 27 to be safe. So he does take up a lot of room. Venom is a big character. You know, he's polymorphic in the comics. Now, the Venom reels you saw at the beginning, the last 2 were actually ones that I have coming in still. So one of those showed how small or how large he was, I guess, compared to Eddie Brock. So he grows tremendously. So I think it's scaled right. The water tower and the building are scaled smaller. But, this has been kind of a new thing. Like even Sideshow Collectibles did it recently with this Spider-Man statue right here. And there's been a bunch more they're doing it. And initially I didn't like it, but in person I do like it. So the big worry about this is, will it hold up over time? So you have your apartment building base. Well, then you have the water tower that is screwed into that and it's leaning. Then you have Venom that is pegged and keyed into that, and he's leaning over. I don't know. I honestly don't know. So a little bit scary, but I don't like to prejudge that, hey, this is a bad design, it's going to lean. Who knows? So with that being said, I think the design's a 4 out of 5 as well. It's much higher than average. And I say that because, when you're going to be ambitious, and clearly this is a very, very ambitious statue, you deserve a lot of props for that, in my opinion. We're going to look at the paint and sculpt. So this is done by one of the best sculptors in the game and one of the best painters in the game. So, I'm going to tell you right now, paint's 5 out of 5. So kind of a spoiler on that. We'll do some close-up video. And one of the things I want to let you know is I'm going to do a video after this comparing it to another Venom by the same sculptor. This one right here, because I think I'm going to decide which one of these I'm going to keep. I love that other one. It's one of my favorites. Is this one better? Even though it's the same sculptor, maybe that will tell us. Let's take a look. So as I said, the paint on this is incredible. We're still going to look at it. Now, the bottom, like we talked about, is kind of a conceptual base. of a smaller building jumping out, but I love what they did. So I like how the windows are whited out. It does look a little comic-y, but this is a comic-based Venom. But then you go into like the red brick behind the fire escape there. Very realistic, not only the sculpt, but the paint. The scoring on the top of the building is fantastic. And I really like how, while all these are dark colors, they complement each other really well. You have these blacks and browns and even dark reds. And then of course we have Venom with a little bit of blue, which we'll talk about. But I really like this bottom part of the base. The bricks look great. The piping coming out. And this ladder, the rustic look they gave on it, really adds to the fact of how broken up it is. That's pretty cool. The water tower, and yes, I said water tower. The water tower, in my opinion, is what steals the show. The Venom's great, don't get me wrong, and we'll look at that, but look at the wood design on that. That looks like real wood, not painted polystone. That is so cool what they did with that. Not only the paint, but the sculpt, and even the roof of it. And then the rope, looks like a real rope. This is a fully sculpted and painted rope made out of resin, I believe. The knots, the layering in it, wow. Now we go to Venom. Another thing with Venom is a lot of times they do a lot of blue highlights. Sometimes they do it in the skin. They didn't do too many. There's more white highlights in here. And I have some bright lights on this, but what they did is the sculpt really makes it look alive, makes it move. Where a lot of times they do that with the paint. Here you can see it was done with the sculpt, and I really like that. It's almost like creating all these veins and indentions to show the movement of the symbiote. Then you have the spider symbol. They can usually do this flush. They can do it indented or protruding. This is protruding, so it's actually sitting up a little bit above, and then the consistency with the pads on the hands. Another difference too with Venom statues, sometimes they make separate fingernails and separate toenails. Here you can see they didn't. They just stuck with the costume covering them up. I don't have a preference either way. I think both can be done well. But I really like the movement in it. I think the paint complements it well. It's not too shiny. It does look shiny right here simply because of the bright lights, but it's not too dark either. And they did add a little bit of shading in the spider symbol, and great anatomy on this too. Eddie Brock was a very buff guy. He was a bodybuilder, and then the symbiote suit, kind of extends that. Take a look at the tongue. Fantastic job. Well, I didn't talk about it, but there are no switch outs with this. I don't think there need to be. This is just awesome looking. So I love the deep red on the tongue and then the translucency to show where the saliva is. That's pretty cool. But what I love about this, and I think it's the paint job, I love the purple in the eyes. I love this expression on the face. You see a little bit, there's my broken drool. I love these teeth. Nasty, scary. This is the star of the show. And then, usually he has kind of these appendages that connect his upper and lower jaw. These are almost translucent. I've never seen that before, and I really like it. This is one of the best Venom portraits I've ever seen, in my opinion. So that's why, like I said, they don't really need other switch out options for it. And of course, you don't have a seam line when you only have one portrait. So really impressive paint job. We knew it was going to be awesome. Sculpt, very, very good as well. It's going to be hard to decide between this and there's the other one, by the way, if you wanted to see it. Fantastic job overall. So as I said, the paint's 5 out of 5. The sculpt, I like the sculpt of the other one better, but it's more of just the rendition of Venom, not necessarily that this is bad. But man, some of this stuff is pretty cool too. I'm going to give the sculpt a 4 out of 5 on this, not a 5 out of 5. The problem with this statue is because it's such a low edition size, because it's professionally painted, it's a lot more expensive. So is it worth it? This was $2,500 retail, plus over $500 shipping. So you're $3,000 into this. That is a lot of money, but it's for an incredibly unique statue. The issue is, though, if you're going to buy a Venom statue, whether it's custom or licensed, there are tons of great choices. Not saying this isn't a great choice, it is, but there are tons that are half the price or even less. Like Prime 1 Studio Venom, in my opinion, is still one of the best in the day, and that retailed for $1,000. Granted, that was a long time ago. So I don't think this is worth it to the general public. you have to have a very, very specific buyer, which is why they only made 20 of them. But I would say to the general public who collects statues, it's probably a 2 out of 5 on the value just because of the high price tag. Although I do think it's justified based off of the time and effort and low edition size that goes in. It all depends on how you rate value. Is value based off of the time and effort that went in, or is value based off the resale price that you could probably get down the road? That's what I tend to do, although it gets a little bit harder in today's economy, especially within the statue community. Is this a 5 out of 5 statue? I think it is, especially that portrait, and the portrait and the dynamic part alone give it a 5 out of 5. I'm really impressed, and I'm really going to have to take some time to sit this next to that other one. So to see which one's better, make sure you've not only liked this video, but you've subbed to the channel and hit that bell notification. In the meantime, I will put up a poll when I do that video, or the day before I do that video, and eventually I will sell one of these. I'll actually sell one of these at the end of this month. Another great reason to make sure you're subscribed. Now, if you're not subscribed and you want to win a statue, though, now is the time to comment. Throw that down below. As we try to grow this channel, we like to reward you guys for watching and subscribing. So because of that, every 5,000 milestone when it comes to subscribers, we give away a couple $1,000s worth of statues. We've actually given away over 20 statues. To win one was easy. First, you got to be subscribed to the channel. You'll get bell notifications when videos drop. Each video that drops, you want to make a comment on those videos. We pick a random video, we give away statues based on a comment. You can say whatever you want. The more videos you comment on, the higher your chances are to win. Hey, thank you so much. I'm really appreciative. I was one of the first ones to get this project, and that's awesome. Very happy with it. Badass piece for sure. Thank you guys for watching. Again, please hit that like and subscribe if you have not for those future videos. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.